It has been absolutely nightmarish trying to get online today. I feel like I need to go and read a whole bunch of guides about the internet or something. Nothing works. I tried to do a Zoom meeting today with my first guest, Dodie Paul Hamus, and can you just not record with Zoom anymore? Like, is that now a premium function? Because I tried to do a recording with a Google Meet afterward, but that didn't work either, right? So right now I'm just kind of sort of guessing that recording a live session on a video call is now something you have to pay for if you want to have other people involved in the call, which lame. I'm sure there's a way that I could just record the call using like software that's outside of Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, but I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to do that much work. Anyway, I'm going to try to work out the kinks on that this week because I really want Dodie Paul Hamus to come and talk to me and to help me sparse out the whole toxic masculinity thing, because that's a very interesting subject to me. And I am very anxious to make fun of Donald Trump on this channel. And it's like, I didn't want this channel to be political because there's like a million different political channels out there on YouTube, right? There are people who do that so well. And everything I'm doing right now is already so terrible. But like, it's starting to become more and more obvious as I talk about mental health from any type of perspective that it's really hard to be not political. It's almost impossible not to just inject a big old fat turkey baster of politics into that discussion. It's part and parcel of it. It is, and you know what the really, really weird thing is politics is actually something I really enjoy talking about. It's just really hard. If you're going to talk politics, you have to have a great deal of either audience awareness or like self-awareness, because it is just a minefield of awful. Like, just, talking about that is almost guaranteed to get you just mountains and mountains and mountains of, not hate mail in my case, because I don't have any fans or anybody to upset, but you're basically throwing a wrench into a mountain of potential personal relationships because it's such a maddening and infuriating topic. But the main person I want to talk about today, and I'm doing this mainly because I'm trying to think about how to do something that would be, that would contribute to the conversation without stepping too much on the toes of what I want to do next week. But I want to talk about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is a pretty big media figure, right? He's definitely a lot bigger than little old David Bailey getting on YouTube to do a personal diary about his mental issues. But Charlie Kirk is terrible. Charlie Kirk is just a reprehensible, nasty smear of a human being. And the simple fact is that, like, his role in the conversation and his role in, mental health is just so unbelievably detrimental that he is like a living virus, just a living Ebola, just spewing garbage all over everyone. And to be as specific as possible about this, I have not been a fan of Charlie Kirk for a long time for a variety of reasons. But he doesn't really step on the toes directly of mental health very much. I mean, there are lots of different ways that modern conservatism can do that, right? Modern conservatism really does not take the issue of mental health very seriously. I may be a little unfair here, but if I am, please flame me in the comments. I'm okay with being, absolutely lit on fire in the comments. It doesn't bother me very much. Conservatism, in a variety of ways, does not believe in mental health, right? It just doesn't. And the way that I'm gonna tackle this is I'm gonna try very hard not to put this on specific people except for Charlie Kirk because he freaking deserves it. But conservatism believes in the tantamount nature of like personal responsibility, right? And in the triumph of the personal will. So theoretically, as long as you are a strong-willed, realized individual, you shouldn't have mental health problems. mental health problems are something that are kind of generated out of a weakness of the will, a moral failing. So unless it's something extremely obvious, unless it's something that's like you can directly relate to a broken part of the brain, like schizophrenia, or even something like narcolepsy, which is not a mental health problem. I mean, it has to have a very, very physical kind of sort of, narcolepsy isn't a mental health problem at all. What the hell am I talking about? I'm so frazzled because I haven't been able to get my software to work today. But for most conservative minded people, in order for mental health to have even a place in a conversation, it has to have like a physical manifestation. It needs to be something that's so far beyond the expression of one's will that there's no way that any type of personal responsibility issue can be brought into the conversation. So the reason I'm taking a big fat dump on Charlie Kirk right now is because of what he did with Simone Biles. Simone Biles, now this is actually kind of weird that I'm walking straight into this conversation, because I feel in a lot of ways, I'm not exactly an expert on things like the Olympics or gymnastics or sports in general. If I'm going to have a conversation about sports with someone, it's going to be about pro wrestling, right? That's my sports. I like my sports prearranged and mixed with some high school drama. That's my, area of sports. But I'm not stupid enough to completely miss the fact that Simone Biles is a friggin' powerhouse of awesomeness, right? She's extremely good, like to the point that when I see her do things, I'm like, I don't know anything about gymnastics, but damn, right? She almost looks like she looks like she's not human, the things that she's pulling off. Well, if you've been living under a rock, you may have missed the fact that Simone Biles, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to get into those reasons here, Simone has pulled out of the competition in Japan, right? I don't know why she's done that. I mean, maybe she's getting over an injury. Maybe she's having an anxiety issue. That's neither here nor there, right? She needs to pull out. She has absolutely nothing to prove to anybody. She's won her competitions. She's in the past. Her ability to do gymnastics is not up for debate. But Charles Kirk, this guy with Turning Point USA, has the gall, the nerve to come on and talk about Simone Biles in the sense that she is a disgrace to our national consciousness because we're now a generation of weak-willed snowflakes. That's just completely missing the point, right? Now, Simone Biles can do whatever the hell she wants. She's earned the right to walk away from any competition she wants to. And the funny thing is since when did Simone Biles forfeit her bodily autonomy that she is no longer in charge of her mind or her body to be able to say when she's ready to compete and when she's not? I thought like autonomy and personal responsibility was an incredibly important part of conservatism, Charlie. Like, we don't force people to do things that they feel they can't do in that moment. That's absolutely mind-blowing to me that Charlie Kirk would put himself out there to talk about the failure or the inability for an Olympic athlete to compete. I don't even know where Simone Biles has even been political that she's being targeted by Charlie Kirk. I mean, I'm sure there's something. Otherwise, why on earth would she even be on his radar? So, athletes do not belong to us. Athletes are not some type of weird property that we can pontificate on and say, oh, they embody our national consciousness. They don't. They owe us nothing. Simone Biles owes us nothing. If she feels that she is not ready to compete, that is completely and totally up to her. And who the hell is Charlie Kirk to have any opinion on this whatsoever? But at the same time, this is a really good moment to stop and look at what has kind of grown up around this kind of strange the media ecosphere, Charlie Kirk feels a great deal of entitlement that he can talk about somebody else's body and talk about somebody else's ability to stand up and compete as if they have let down the country and they've let him down. How egocentric do you have to be to think anybody gives a crap what you think? Now, again, this is kind of ironic. I'm this guy. It's not too terribly ironic because I don't have much of an audience. But this is ironic coming from a guy on YouTube barking into a microphone about how he feels emotionally about an athlete not competing. And one of the big comparisons people have been making is it Carrie Strung? I remember that moment when I was a kid with a gymnast, and she was very clearly hurt. And she did that big vault, and it was this big moment that she went through, even though she was injured, and the pain that was on her face, and she won the gold medal. And for the first time in my life, I'm looking back on it, and I'm like, that was really stupid. Couldn't it have killed her? Like, if you go off of a vault and you're going that high into the air and you're going at that speed, and you're headed straight towards the ground and you're injured and you hit the ground head first, we're proud of and we're celebrating the fact that this very young girl was basically pressured into putting what I really honestly believe was her life on the line for Olympic gold. What is wrong with us? And Charlie Kirk is sitting there barking about this like it matters. Now, I'm going to finish this out because it's a funny thing about mental health. When you understand why the mind does what it does, you have a different reaction to things what other people do. Now, I was in a classroom a long time ago, and the teacher was trying to motivate us, right? It was like, this is one of the most motivating things I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was this old football movie. I have no idea what the title of the movie is. I could care less. And if I ever figure out what movie this was, oh gosh, it's disgusting. And I've made this point at parties before to kind of, have a little bit of kinship with Ben Shapiro sitting with the book at the party. But in any case, I need to try to stay on topic. So in this film, you got a guy on the football team, and the coach is like, how far are you willing to take it? Right. And the guy's like, will you push this, those sled things with the little dummies on them where they have to like push them across, or they tie them to them, they have to pull things across the field. Anyways, a lot of weight put on this. And he's like, how far do you think you can make it down that field? And the guy's like, oh no, maybe halfway. And he's like, what if you do it blindfolded? Right. So they blindfold this guy on this football team, and he's going and he's pushing, and the coach is like, just give me one more, just give me a little more, it's all right, just come on, keep going, bear with me, man, give me one more. And the guy's screaming in pain as he's pulling or pushing this heavy sled or whatever, and he's listening to his coach. He's like, sorry, I'm doing it, coach, I'm doing it for you, coach. And he's clearly in pain as he's striving for this. And the coach is like, give me one more, Duke, or whatever the hell his name is. And then he's like, that's it. And they let him go, and he takes the blindfold off. And oh my gosh, he pushed the sled all the way across the field. How amazing. Because he trusted his coach. I'm watching this, and I'm like, if you're screaming in pain, and your body basically is communicating with you that what you're doing is essentially harming it. There's a reason pain exists, right? Pain is the body's subtle way of telling you, hey, stop, you're really messing me up, right? So everybody looks at this like, God, it's so inspiring. And I'm like, yeah, it would have been inspiring until that high school kid tore his freaking ACL. And then this coach would have been left with this kid who was critically injured and was blown his whole season. Why? So I can inspire you. We have a relationship with pain. And we have a relationship with pushing past the pain that is directly going to cause people to essentially buckle, and destroy themselves. And we will not be happy until people do so. Looking back at Carrie Strung, if I remember correctly, I don't think Carrie Strung ever did like gymnastics ever again. I could be getting that name wrong. Keep in mind, I'm doing this stuff live off of the cuff because I just don't have the editing wherewithal to go back and make things look perfect, right? That's just me. I record this and I respond. But she was just, her body was destroyed. She was broken after that. And there's no telling how much pain, how much therapy went into that. And it's like, you're okay with the fact that we as a country stood behind this very young athlete, pushing them for a piece of metal. You're okay with this thing? I'm sorry. In my opinion, what Simone Biles did by actually taking a stand for her physical health, for her mental health, whatever it was, it's heroic. She stood up against cartoonish villains like Charlie Kirk. She actually did more good for our nation's mental health by showing us personal boundaries than she would have done by winning another freaking gold medal. We got plenty of those. We only have so many Simone Biles, right? If we only have one of those, I would rather have a fully functioning Simone Biles for the foreseeable future than I would to have another medal on the ridiculously tall stack of gold medals that the United States has already won. I'd much rather have the example that says it's okay to say stop. It's okay to let the world see you own up to the fact that you're done. I admire her more now than I ever did as an athlete because she was brave enough to show us that she has her limits and she's not going to let us push her past those limits. It's brave as hell. I really want a t-shirt or a poster of her now. She's now my favorite athlete. She's like an athlete that actually kind of stands up for people like me. You know, people who do have to say enough's enough. Thank you, Simone Biles, for being a force of mental health good in the world. And you know what, Charlie Kirk? You can go sip a turd martini. Thank you, guys.